Alright, we are back on N15 stuff. So, well, I'm back on it. That's the last thing you guys saw, I think. But it's not very uncommon to fit these wrist pins in these older pistons like this. These are the MCs. I don't know exactly what compression ratio these are. I'll find out and tell you at some point. But they're just a cool old set of MCs I had laying around, and I thought how perfect for that N15. They came with wrist pins, and they were pretty snug, which, you know, I've had to do this multiple times. So set up the hone them out nice and pretty. You know, it doesn't take much. But the one thing I have had a problem with is the oil control ring on, it's a Hepalite ring, and it's not quite fitting in that groove the way I'd want it to. Okay, well, sometimes you have to set something up to realize it's not such a good idea. I was hoping the radius side of the jaw would be a better bite, but the dome is pushing me away and causing it to be no real benefit to having it backwards. So there's very little purchase on that, and so I'm not going to attempt this. I did, however, find... I have a ton of carbides and high-speed steel and all sorts of stuff I've collected. And so I found this. Somebody had prepped at some point, but it is perfect. Assuming it was probably a parting tool or something, but it is going to be perfect 90 degrees to come in and just widen that, or deepen, or however you want to say it. But I'm going to put a bunch of Sharpie in the bottom so I don't actually go in. I don't want to reduce the actual diameter of the inside. I just want to lower that floor. So regardless, I have to flip these back around, and it will be a much better way of grabbing these. Okay, so I dug through as many books as I could, and pretty much came up with like 3,000. It's on the bigger side of everything I found, but I wanted to play it safe. And so I pretty much just, first I got it to where the ring would just fit, and then I mean, it was hard. I put my little indicator on the way, and then just got it to where the feeler gauge would fit in there with it. So I'm happy with it. It's, you know, obviously it needs the spring band behind it, but yeah, those are done. So that was kind of the last thing. I got that honed the other night. I wish I could show you that. It looks nice in there, but got the hone done the other night. Now that I've got those ring lands, I was really nervous about that. I did not want to mess up these pistons. You know, chucking anything up in the lathe, you know, you got to be nice to it. You got to be careful, especially something like a piston. So they didn't get deformed or anything, but we're good to go. Now, the next step on that would be balance. We talked about the crank already. This was one I had prepped and swapped out, and it's ready to go. And then I found I had another set of cylinders. These are in pretty good shape. I don't know if you're going to be able to see. There is some texture from some corrosion on the outside there, but as far as the inside of the bore, it really cleaned up nice. Let's see if I can get a light on it. It needs wiped out still, but maybe you can kind of see the crosshatch. There's some oil left from just me cleaning it, but I will wipe those out and they'll look really pretty, and I'll show you guys. But this is good. They match the piston. Ring gaps are all set. I just couldn't install the rings till I cut those. And then we're going to run the steel H-beam rods. And so pins fit good in those. I've got Molly bearings for this. So I'm going to balance this. And then after that, the big issue is the finish. Ignore the matchless head, but we're going to talk about this. I wanted to get kind of some shadowed light onto it so you can see. The head has clearly been sandblasted, and I don't like the way it looks. The bottom end still looks like kind of normal. It has that acid bath look to it, but this just looks bad. I really don't like it. I'm never going to be able to get it to be like, you know, half-ass clean or whatever. So as much as I didn't want to, I think I might end up vapor blasting all the aluminum. The media I have in my hone right now is pretty dingy, so it might be okay because it's not going to come out all beautiful, bright, and shiny. It'll just kind of be more of just a neutral, clean look. But yeah, I just the sandblast look is just not going to cut it for me, and this needs a lot of work. Sorry, I'm trying to do this. Some of the other things I've been up to is I put new valve seats, both intake and exhaust, on this G80 head, and then I've got the same thing going on here. This one's a bit more special, so it got the bronze seats put in it from Kibblewhite, but those are just the SBIs. They're good. Obviously, there's nothing wrong with those. This guy just wanted to go a little extra, so that's been something that's been taking up a lot of my time, and I haven't really been getting any videos done because of it. So what I'm doing right now is cleaning these up. I had discussed vapor blasting scenarios as far as like with the head and everything, but I don't know, the more I'm cleaning on this, the more I may just leave it alone. I don't want this thing to be all shiny and bright because the rest of the bike is going to be just as is. So I'm going to just continue to hand degrease and scrub on this. I probably will like do a mild polish job on just to make it look kind of pretty. But nothing too crazy. There's just a lot of waves and stuff in it. So if I got those out, I think I'd be happy with it. Like just some of this, you know, as of right now, looks way better. So still have to do the inside a little bit more, get that bearing race out, and then we will balance the crank. Why are you barking? Quick little story with these. This whole bike. A friend of mine I met a few years back at Davenport, Jerry Bradford, he's from Arkansas. He actually called me the other day because he watched one of the videos on this thing, and he's like, hey, that's my whole bike. And so we got to talk about that, and it was kind of fun. He had gotten it and just got it running and rode it around some, did some changes. He said the front end had been modified, and quite a bit of work, really. And so that was really reassuring to know that he actually got to ride the bike around. You know, that meant for the most part everything was functioning. So that was really cool. Just kind of made me laugh, but I don't know, just added a little bit more cool factor to this whole situation. But anyway, like I said, I'm gonna keep scrubbing on these. I'm just using brake clean, nothing too special, just to get that layer of oil off, and then like I said, I want to get that crank balanced today, and we can get this bottom end together. Cylinders are ready too, so they could go on. Yeah, let's just see how far we can get. I already got all the balance numbers done, but we're going to walk through them anyway, and then I'll make up the bob weight. But I've walked through this before. You have your pistons and your small ends are what is considered reciprocating weight because it's reciprocating. The piston goes up and down, the small end attached to the piston or piston attached to the small end, it's going up and down also. But your big end, your shells, and your crank are what's considered rotating mass, which is obviously rotating. You always use 100% of the rotating mass. So whatever the big end weighs, whatever the shells weigh, you're using that. That is always 100% of the value. But when you start talking about percentage factor, it is how much percent of the reciprocating mass that you're using. So pistons 381, and that's pin, rings, the whole deal. 381 per. Small ends are 110 per. That number is added up, and then you find 1% of that or whatever, and then like I'm going to use 75%, or you could do whatever. Anyway, 75% of that number is going to be added to big end of 319, shells 45, and so those two together is 732. Now I've got this little bit of oil sitting here because your other kind of variable, I guess, is the oil, because it's going to be in there attached to the crank, it's going to be thrown around, it's going to be all over the rods, it's going to be on the bottom of the pistons, it's going to be inside the crank. So I like to add just a little bit because of that. This is what 20 grams of oil looks like. So it's not that much. This all would fit into the inside cavity of the, they don't have a such trap, but that center cavity of the crank. More than this honestly would fit, but this is a good number to just kind of tack on. Well, anyway, long story short, those are all the numbers you're going to use. So now I will take this bob weight, and I need 2 of those to hold on the halves together and 2 to hold the weight on. And I'm going to make that weigh about 752 grams. So let's get that all on. Okay, so I knocked the corner off there, and I knocked the corner off on that one. You can see it's just a little bit removed. I haven't spun it yet to check what that really removed, but I'm going to go ahead and throw probably 3 dimpled holes here. I like to use this radius. I don't know if you can see that, but I like to use this radius cutter just so in that way there's no sharp corners at the bottom of the holes I'm going to put in it. So corner, 3 holes with nice little radius bottoms like I was talking about. I don't know if you can see that or not. And the other corner taken off. So let's see what kind of change we got here. Nice and lubed up. Norton flywheels aren't round, so you can see it whapping around like that, but we're just over 400 RPM. We'll just wait for these to fill in. Haha. Okay. Don't let that get away. So, our 17 turned to 13. Not great, but our 6 turned to 1. We're going to leave that alone for a little bit. We're just going to focus on that 13 for now. It's one of those deals where the angle is going to change now. We're going to kind of start chasing it at this point. So, this, if I hit tolerance 0.12, that's amazing. That's way below half of an inch out. So that's as close as we're going to really get. This number over here is going to affect this, but again, we're just going to ignore it. That 1.44 is way off. 0.44 would be great, but we want that 13 to come way down. So let's keep getting creative. 7 degrees. You know, we're starting to lose our ability to do anything here. We may, I don't know. If we start removing the central weight, it is going to definitely start affecting this side. I don't really want to, we could take this corner off here a little bit. So we might play with that. But again, we're still looking pretty good. I mean, I guess I didn't really talk about that at the beginning, but realistically, whether this gets to be perfect or not, you know, whether these are exact and we're well within our window, blah, blah. For this application, it's not going to be a huge, I'm not doing a very good job of upselling this service, but overall, we just want a really happy engine. That's all I care about, is this thing needs to be happy. I'm not trying to be the fastest on the street. I'm not trying to achieve any, you know, records of any kind. So just a happy engine is all I want. But anyway, I'm going to shut up and keep working. Okay, so I got 2 cute little dimples and a through hole. It's through a pretty meaty section of it, so it was a fair amount of material removed. But like I was saying, what ends up happening is the corrections you make on one side start affecting the other side. So you guys remember we were down to 1 and, 7 or something? I can't remember. Removed a few from there, but now it's changing how it's acting on the opposing side. Tiny little short cranks are hard to do. If this thing was, you know, 6 feet long, it'd be way, way easier because it's such a dramatic change. But let's see. Oh, okay, so the goal is anything under 0.5. 0.5. But the most important part is, like I said, we've got 2 sides that match. I'm happy. That's really what it comes down to. We could sit here and chase those, but what's going to end up happening is it's just going to be a complete mess of little dimples and dots and holes, and it's just not worth it. Like I said, this thing's going to get covered in a layer of oil. That's going to change our balance factor. The amount of oil living inside it, that's going to change our balance factor. How much is stuck to the rods, blah, 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 blah. I'm happy with where this is at. This is, for me, it's going to be really, really happy the way it is. This is a large improvement. If it was a customer's, I would probably spend a little bit more time on it. But for me, I am very, very satisfied with that. 0.55, 0.54, that is pretty damn good. I am now going to clear some room, and we're going to get the rods mounted on this thing. Alright, so the goal here is about 5.5. It's 5 to 5.5. I'll see what it feels like at 5. That's 5.5 right there. That's good. In a perfect world, you wouldn't spin the rod until it was completely torqued, but I can't get my gauge on, so unfortunately that means I have to. And now you guys don't get to watch this side go, but that's alright. You'll see another one here shortly. Alright, I'll show you this one. I think I can probably pull it from that side. Hopefully you guys can, it's a good enough angle you can kind of see. Oh yeah, you can see it. So it's kind of fun because this is what's happening to every bolt that you're torquing. It's actually growing in length as it stretches, but you just actually get to see it happen here. Alright, you're in the way. Alright, well, I am super happy with how this turned out. We have 10 under, steel H-beam rods, super, super cool setup. The crank is done. It can wait. So now we need to get a case ready. Like we were talking about before, all of this needs to be cleaned up and prepped. It's damn near there. I just want to double check a few little vital spots. This bearing I already knocked out. I need to do the race in that one, and so I can do super blends in both sides. That's the plan. That doesn't matter right now. And then the cylinders are ready, and so if I get these case halves together and get the crank in, we could put the cylinders on, which would be kind of cool. So let's see what I can make happen. Okay, so I threw the primary side case half in the oven to get that bearing out, so hopefully we can hear it drop here in a little bit. But this is gonna make you guys laugh, hopefully as much as it did me. You see all that patterning in there? That's like a wrist pin clip. Clearly got beat up pretty good hitting that the cam and bouncing around in there. This must have happened quite a while, obviously well before the knurling and all that, but I was gonna clean this out, but then I stopped because I want to do this together, because check this out. This seems like I staged this, but I promise I didn't. How in the hell did that end up in there? That is a wrist pin clip, and it's pretty beat up. It's not flat. It's all pinched and whatever. How did it go in here though? Like, the oil has to go through this. How did it get forced in past there? I mean, this thing is kind of like beat up. Like, it does have a, like, yeah, like, I guess maybe it hit there, but how did it, because then I was like, oh, maybe it hooked and like rotated in there, but even that, like, it would have had to get in between these perfectly, but yeah, I thought that was wild. So that was, that was banging around in there. But then either no one ever cleaned this, or I don't know. Let's see if I can get... Ugh, gross. Yeah. Weird, but I just thought that was so funny. Why is that in there? Like, that's crazy. Well, I think I've got that case half in the oven. I'm gonna leave as soon as it's done because it's gonna stink in here. And then tomorrow is Sunday. We will get this bottom in together. I have my brother's bike back in, well, actually this is the first time it's been in this shop. And so I need to finish up these pipes for him. I think I've showed these before. They got this crazy long taper on both sides. I'm really, really happy. I love the way these look. They're probably gonna sound ridiculous, but this is a, bar hopper. We don't go to bars, but you get the idea. But they need finish welded, and then I'm going to just kind of grind these welds down a little bit, but I'm going to wrap them up until I think like here, just past this weld. They'll get wrapped, and then we'll polish the rest, and then I'm going to make little stainless supports for this back here, so they're held on obviously at the head and then back here, and then finish assembling his engine. We have to cut these oil tank mounts out and put in the Santee oil tank I've got for him. The fender's pretty much already mounted. It needs trimmed up. And then we have to finish the sissy bar. But yeah, this is his bike. And I really want to get it done for him. And that way he can have it this summer. Got the cases chilling here on the cement. I obviously knocked him in on the board. I like working on the ground. I know that gets kind of weird. People always are weirded out by that. One, I like bending my knees so they don't quit bending, The other thing is you can't drop shit if you're already on the ground. So, plus the cement will cool this nicely. So, both super blends are in. Next, we need to drive on the inner races. Super blends are great. They allow a lot of flex, which is a good thing on these. Once I get these on, we are going to dry fit them together and make sure we are within our range for infloat. You mad because I'm not petting you? You want these to be a nice snug fit. If they just dropped on, that'd be concerning. But you just got to keep them square. I was doing a lot of light tapping because I just didn't want to start forcing it crooked on there. Now that they're on, unfortunately, we do have to check infloat. With the super blends, you can go from it's 10 to 24 thousandths, which is a huge gap. So if we fall within there, I don't have to take these back off. If we do, I do have to remove one and shim behind it, but we're going to keep our fingers crossed. I've done this quite a few other times and they did not need shimmed, thankfully, but we'll see. I'm not always that lucky. But we are ready for the dry fit. I think those cases are probably cooled off by now, so let's get them on the table here. I'm going to clean up. Ooh, they're still warm. You know what? It takes a minute for it to sink in. They still look a little dingy, but these cases are very clean, and I'm very happy with everything about them. I ran the super scraper all the way around here, and everything looks really good. On that side, it's got the lip, so I can't really do much else, and it's got 2 dowels. This side is flat, and so I went ahead and checked it on the surface plate, and it looks really good. There's some dingy spots from oil, but it is flat. Some oil came out when I was warming it up, but I think you can probably kind of see how pretty that is. So because this is flat, I'm pretty happy with this. It's got a few little spots here and there, but overall nothing can catch the carbide on the super scraper, so that's promising. That should seal up good. We shouldn't have any leaks. So, and Norton's, if you do them right, they usually are pretty oil tight. So we are now going to, I'll get a couple blocks to set this up on, and then we're going to check in float. Okay, so I dropped this on, and then I forgot to put these studs back in I'd taken out. So I got the studs back in. The thing you have to remember about these a lot of time is, like, whether it's head, case halves, whatever, a lot of this stuff is really, really easy to manipulate and twist. So even if, you know, like, under no tension, just 2 flat objects going together, that's great. That's exactly what you want. But you also have to remember, it's going to change a lot once you actually get all of the hardware in and start torquing. It's going to distort. This is another reason why it does take, you know, a fair amount of hours during assembly. You don't get to just put these things together the first time, depending on what it is. You know, some things, yeah, you do get to just kind of slap it together because there's really nothing to check. But because in this situation we have to make sure we have the proper infloat, that takes 2 assemblies. In this case, 3. That first one was just to make sure we had good bearing alignment and everything, because once you start changing stuff, you do want to double check things like that. But the torque on these isn't crazy, so I'm not getting super carried away. I'm just, you know, getting everything snugged up. So we are stacking solids here. And then I wanted to show you, without bashing that, this is very, very smooth. You know, it's not fighting me at all. There's no tight spots. It's super, super happy. So as long as our infloat is what we want, we will be good to go. You always want to make sure your rods aren't bashing and banging on stuff, so be nice. The 2 little Phillips here, they're a little chewed up. They didn't want to come out, so I kind of boogered one of them up a little bit. But I think I've already talked about this once before, but the goal with this bike is to create kind of like a Midwest gravel travel bike. You know, just something that would be happy going from you know, different B-level roads and all that kind of stuff. We don't really have any tracks around here anymore. We don't really have any, you know, parks or anything that you could go ride in. So gravel roads and, you know, maybe a cow pasture or something is about all you're gonna be able to do with this thing. And so that's kind of why I'm doing a little bit of a lower heavy look to it, because that's about all it's good for. I think what we'll do is, if I can get this thing to kind of sit happy. It's a pretty big jump. Let's see what it measures. Let me see if Okay, I've got my cheesy indicator here, and I'm trying to get it zeroed out. But you guys can see we're right. We got, I think, 19 somewhere in there. I tried to cue it up so you could see, but it's moving all over the place on me because I'm at a weird angle. But okay, so that is acceptable. I don't think it's worth the effort to try and yank that inner race off, because the range is 10 to 24. We're at 19, so I really like where we're at. I'm just gonna leave it there. It really isn't gonna make that big of a difference. If I, you know, the 3000 shim or something like that, it just isn't worth it. But if you look, this is what I'm doing. I'm just kind of lifting, and I can feel it. You know, it's a hard stop. I'm not prying on it past that. I like using something a little smaller so I don't have a ton of leverage. so I can't cheat it. No, I'm probably not pointing at it there, but yeah, just indicate off the end. I check it in a couple different spots. I rotate it around, check it again, whatever. But yeah, that's the goal there. All right, so now we are going to take it all back apart. No big deal, just a couple fasteners, but we'll take it out. We will put the cam in, and we will put sealant on the case halves. I want to get this thing sealed up, and then we are going to put the cylinders on. I want to see it. I want to see these pistons in there going up and down. Yeah, you can see them. Nothing too crazy, just something to encourage it to separate. All right. We didn't need to do anything to the bushing, so we don't have to worry about cam alignment being any different. The cam lobes look really good. I'm really satisfied with it. It's a scrolled journals on the cam, which means they're solid bushings. Again, that's all stuff that's in that really nice little Norton book I was showing you guys. It talks about, you know, what goes to what, and you can't do this and you can't do that, and just, that book's awesome. If you have a Norton, you should get that book. No, we're not gonna try. We're gonna flip. We're gonna pull this back out. We're gonna set it over here for now, because I don't want to, I'm not gonna sit here and try and fight that disc and spring. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna get this blocked up to where it's level and happy. And we're gonna work on this side. I'm gonna drop some assembly lube into the bottom of this and along the bushing edges and stuff. That way this isn't just straight friction when we do our first startup. We're gonna drop that breather disc down in there, and then we're gonna check our spring one more time, make sure there's no weird debris or anything on it. Looks pretty good. We're gonna drop that down in there. And of course it turns sideways, so you wanna mess with it till it's seated in the bottom of that disc. No, not caught up on anything, nothing weird. Again, our cam looks really good. I'm happy with it. We could add a little bit more assembly lube to it directly if we wanted to, make us feel a little bit better. And then there's the two little notches, and that's gonna line up with that breather disc. Okay, so if you can see this, if you can feel the spring action and actually move it, you know you're lined up. If it's clunking and hitting, that means your splines aren't lined up. But that's good right there. We're happy with that. Spin it in place a little bit, make sure we got that lube. That is where that should be. So now we'll do a little bit of assembly lube in the bearing here, down in between. Then we can drop our crank. I like to hold the crank like this so the webs protect the rods so you're not bashing them against the case halves or anything, but you want to get a really good grip. And we're going to set that down in, bottomed out beautifully. We're going to put a little bit of lube around here so we don't have to on the other side. Put a little bit around this. Journal on the cam. Now, we are probably gonna just go ahead, because this doesn't have the dowels on it. It does have the two studs, but there's not the dowels to go around and that lip. We're just gonna put our sealant on this half, and then that's a nice smooth flat surface to work with. I'm going to use Hylamar Blue for the case halves. 1184 would be good by 3 Bond. I'm all out of that right now, so Blue Hylamar is also very good. I like it. I'm just going to get a light film. It doesn't take, I mean, in theory, I hate that, in theory. The idea is the two surfaces are going to be completely mated together. This is just going to fill in all the voids. Hopefully the voids aren't that big, so we don't really need much. We just want a nice film consistently around this. And so that's what I'm going to go for. But I've seen guys use entirely way too much, which just means a lot of it ends up inside your engine. Not really ideal, but when you're done with this, acetone is the best way to remove it. So like off your fingers, the excess off the cases, but you don't want to get super carried away and have it filling everything. I've been really far behind on videos just because I'm trying to keep up in the shop on actual customer work. So I don't really get to work on this thing much. And a lot of the work I've been doing, I think I said this, is stuff that I don't really want more of, so I'm not showing it because notoriously if I show you me doing it, you're going to want yours done, and I may not want to do more of it. Again, there's a lot of different ones you can use. Yama Bond is great. 1184, 3 Bond is great. You know, there's different ones. This is just what I prefer. But our cam is still spring loaded. We're good here. Surfaces are clean. We are ready to drop on this other side. Our rod is out of the way. We'll try and stay out of your guys' way. 1 stud, 2 stud, cam, crank, boom. Didn't have that satisfaction of that drop thud, you know, when it hits the bottom, but it's very happy. And that's all that matters. One thing you should maybe consider, I should have probably put that seal on. I kind of skipped that, so I'm sure somebody's going to notice. I'll have to just be really careful installing it, but I do have a driver that'll fit over that. I've had to do that before. You'd think I'd learn, but, you know, silly little stuff like that happens. Don't make videos when you're assembling something and you may actually remember and not rush. Like I said, today's Sunday. I don't really get very many days where I can work on my own stuff. And a lot of this case is being held together with the hardware that holds it into the bike itself. So you've got the few fasteners for right now. I did a pretty big jump because I've already done videos on installing cylinders, and it would have just taken twice as long to sit there and talk about each step. But you guys can go back and watch it. I think it's on a Triumph, but same deal. Oil up your rings a little bit. Get your compressors on there nice and square. Clips are all in. There's assembly lube on everything. Cylinders are wiped down. I went ahead and stuck the gasket to the base of the cylinders instead of the crankcase base. I needed to put my bracing. These are just the pilots, but sometimes I use blocks, whatever it takes. But it's easier to manage this now and slide it on. So Norton cylinders are pretty heavy, so they're not always the most fun to deal with, but what I am going to do is once I get them on and I'm comfortable with like the rings being okay, everything like that, I don't like to completely drop them because a couple of these hardware, I believe I have to get started prior to fully seating it. So we're going to get really close and then we will kind of let it set for a second. I'm going to probably block you guys a little bit, but I need to make sure I've got these squared up. Talk about this all the time. If it takes more than your hand, something's wrong. We're at our oil rings now. Oh, okay. I figured out what I got going on here. My ring compressor is stuck on a stud. What do we got here? We're a little bit cockeyed. Be nice to it, There we go. Just got a little bit off. It wasn't quite square is what our issue was. So, I think we are now squishing our ring compressors. So, I'm going to back those off. Probably not the best angle for you guys. You can't quite see what I got going on, but once you get down to where your ring compressors are past the rings, and so now they're just on the skirts, I am like running into these pilots I'm using as my bottom hold downs. There we go. I'm gonna get these loosened and detached, and then we'll lift it up. I like to kind of spin the crank while I lift, so then that way we don't have to worry about pulling the pistons back out. Backing it off. Okay. That one's disconnected. That one's disconnected. So now, again, these cylinders are heavy and they're hard to hold. Lift it up. Pull that out. Pull that out. Pull these out. Come on. Pull this out. Ugh. And now I can come. Pretty cool. I am very, very happy with how far we got. I didn't show you me torquing all these because it's just tedious. There's a lot of them. The other thing I was going to show is this is free, and the followers are jumping up and down, so everything's good there. I did spin the crank over. Feels great. The rings are pretty snug. They do have a nice kind of mechanical drag to them, but I can't quite grip it and turn it, but you get the idea. They move a little bit. But yeah, we're going to take a break on this for a little bit because I have some important builds to do. I finally have everything to do Red Cloud's pre-unit, and we're going to go ahead and put Steve's unit together at the same time because I think it would be really cool to see these done right next to each other. This was all done by Elite Polishing in Lincoln, and that one obviously was done by me. You guys remember that. But I got Steve's rods in. I got these from the foundry, and they were blank, so I put my name on them. Actually, I didn't get them from the foundry. Dan did. All credit is due to him, but yeah, these are going to be the next video, so we'll probably do Steve's first, maybe starting on that and see how far we get, because to be honest, I think I'm waiting on... Actually, no, I'm not. I've got everything.